Hey Alex, really here. Hey, this is a vlog I wanted to make for a while, but I'm pretty self-conscious of speaking on camera, and I've tried to enunciate my words clearer to make it easier to understand. But so people want to take the piss out of the way I talk, then carry on. But I'm only doing it so I can be understood. Otherwise, people just wouldn't listen to me at all, rather than just the few who do. So how I talk on camera is how I talk to be understood. So that's funny, then laugh away, right? But this guy, he was the director of the FBI for 48 years, from the 20s to the 70s. Think about what happened. From 6 years after the First World War had ended, 6 years before, so they're still in the days of post First World War. He becomes the director through the Second World War, through the Vietnam conflict and all that, right up to the 70s. JFK, he saw a lot of history. J. Edgar Hoover. And these got started they traced the history back to 1896, but they didn't investigate the first murders till 1925. He came in 1924, and the first murders that they investigated were fucking... Sorry about my language. Oops. Was this case, right? I was looking at the Osage Indians just because I was looking at like tribal people and trying to listen to tribal elders and their teachings and trying to learn about that a bit. And I came across this Osage tribe, and the story was just fascinating. As I'm reading more and more about them, it was fascinating. It was good. I shouldn't have started with just that, but the Osage Nation, they got messed about, chased off the land. They had to come further and further west. They got chased off the land, right? And they eventually settled on this land, what nobody else had touched and all that. And they took this land, and they got like Roosevelt giving promises and all sorts that no one had touched land from now on. They'd be left alone, and they weren't. Of course, they got. Even while Roosevelt was still about, they'd lost another 100,000 acres. There was some crazy amounts of land. But, so they bought this land, they bought the land, they were canny. They said, right, we're going to buy this land and no one can fucking tell us to get away. So they bought all the land and they bought the mineral rights, what's called the head rights. I found all this out, like looking into these things called head rights. So they give up, so they'd sell part of the land, but they kept the head rights. And in the 20s, oil was discovered. Well, just coming up to the 20s, oil was discovered. So, and because they'd been canny enough to buy the land and keep the head rights to the land that they did sell, they became fabulously wealthy. Fabulously wealthy. Like, you get to the Osage murders in the 20s. Look, sorry, Osage Nation, yeah. Look, alarmed about the way the Osage were using their wealth, in 1921 the US Congress passed a law requiring any Osage of half or more Indian ancestry, until proving competency, blah 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 blah, right? They all had to have white guardians to tell them how to spend the money. What they had to ask to spend their own money off to a white person. The whole scheme was open to abuse, and they got ripped off left, right and centre. Loads of 30 boomtowns sprang up nearly overnight, all after the Indians' money. And the newspapers were full of reports about these uppity Indians who coming to all this money and showing pictures of them all buying Cadillacs and having mansions built with white slave servants and stuff. Yeah? And then you get this guy, this William Hale. Right? This is how the trial worked out. In the Hale Ramsey murder case, yeah? I think 3 of the murders went to court. 3 of the murders went to court. And this is all that, yeah? But 60 got killed. Only 3 of the murders were ever tried in courts. And this guy took the rap for it, but he weren't this William Hale, King of the Hill Hale. But they was murdering them, poisoning them, marrying them, then murdering them. All sorts of terrible, terrible, horrible things. What should have secured the Indians, the Osage people's future, just sealed the fate even worse. It became a bait. The money attracted all the badness, and the government just let it happen because it were only dumbass Indians who give a shit. No one. So, right, this is going on for ages, right? And they're getting bumped off. Absolutely unbelievable. They started getting bumped off anyway. I don't want to make this the main thing of the vlog. I was going to do a big vlog about them and that, but I'm not going to. What I'm saying is I think the FBI used them. The FBI got asked to intervene and see what was going on here, because there's all these murders happening, people dying and going missing and getting poisoned. Even white people as well. 60 Osage Indians were murdered, but there was even more murders. People who weren't Osage got murdered as well. This lawyer who was on a train and coming with all this evidence to investigate and stuff, he never got off the train alive, you know. And the whole scheme was abused. Everyone was just milking these Indians for every penny they could get. It was open season on them. And they got treated like shit. Look, they called it the Reign of Terror. And this guy, cattleman, William Hale, he ended up taking her out and doing jail and that. But he was a nasty piece of work, definitely, no doubt. But there was worse than him about. Well, just as bad as him about. He just took the fall for it all. Only 3 murders got tried. There were lots more murders. He looks part Indian. Am I allowed to say that? I don't know. I said it anyway, because he did. That's what I mean. The world's gone crazy, hasn't it? Well, I suppose it's always been mad, but look, falsifying death certificates, for instance, claiming suicides when people have been killed. Or, you know, how many actual murders was there between 1922 and 1925? They were collecting serious amounts of money. So, and they all got given white, like, guardians, like in Tom Sawyer or something, you know what I mean? And there's no films about it. I think there was a film got made in 2017, as I found out as I started looking into it, right? But you'd think something like this, there'd be hundreds of books about it, there'd be loads of films about it, there'd have been this law about it, they'd be famous, like everyone knows Rosa Parks and you know, it'd be a big story. But it's not. And I'm telling you, because the FBI went in there and they used it as like a training camp for counter-terrorism, because they were double bluffing. They didn't know who they could trust. They didn't know who was in on it, who wasn't in on it. So it was a big, complex, complicated investigation, and it took them 4 years. They were in there 4 years. And people are still getting murdered, and the FBI are in there. I'm telling you, the FBI could have closed it down, couldn't they? Think about it. They could have worked it out, but they chose not to, in my opinion. That's why there's not many books about it, apart from 1 or 2 whitewashed versions. But what I'm saying is, the way they treat those Indian people in the 1920s, like, what would you call it? A monster, like the FBI, that it's become a behemoth, of a fucking internal power structure. The FBI's in there for internal terrorism and stuff like that. And they now, how they treat the Indian people back then, like, and that's how everyone is now. The people are the enemy. That's why you've seen modern day cities with people freezing to death on the streets in the Western world. We're so clever, we're so advanced, but we don't give a shit anymore about human life. We say, oh, because so much more nowadays, now we're so civilised, human life matters now. No, it doesn't. It used to matter in some countries. If you was in the right country, human life sort of matters. But it doesn't in them countries anymore now. You look on the streets of any so-called Western city in winter and you'll see people, women, young people, old people, all different classes, and they're freezing to death on the fucking streets. Worse than Victorian times. In Victorian times, it was all, well, it was sort of new, wasn't it? It was like people moving into the cities for the first time. They had these population explosions. They didn't have the infrastructure. And as they came across these problems, they recognised them and sort of tried to alleviate them. Now, they're just bringing down things what they know are going to make more pressure, make things worse, make society worse. But it doesn't matter because their first goal is that the bottom line is right financially. The numbers are right. It doesn't matter. The humans doesn't outweigh the numbers anymore. It never really fucking has. But in certain countries, they used to give us a semblance of that was the case because they needed the people of them certain countries to be of a certain level to get superconducting fucking magnets and stuff, the minerals out of the ground, the hard currency shit. I don't just mean diamonds and jewels, I mean useful scientific elements what are of use to this fucking transhumanism thing and all the rest of it that it ties into. They literally think they're God, these fuckers. They think they're better than God. They don't believe in a God. They are the God. They are God to them. Whether you believe in God or not, these people believe that they are the God. They believe it is them. They think they're going to move on to the next stage, transhumanism, and then we're going to control the planets next. We're not for the Earth anyway, they tell us, and all this, and it's... They have a way of telling it for whatever way you want to dress it to fit the agenda. That didn't make much sense. It does, but yeah, it's... I'm going to have to pause and get a coffee, I think, as well. I can explain it, what I mean. I know this is prostitutes, right? And people might say I'm cherry picking or whatever, but I'm not. I'm just showing, right? Well, maybe, but, right, just, it is what it is. Deaths of UK homeless people more than double in 5 years. 5 years they doubled. More than doubled in just 5 short years. How many years did it take to get to them 5 years? It took 60 years of like slow wind down collapsing to get to the rates it were 5 years ago, and then in the last 5 years it's doubled. When did we peak? I'd say 80s with Thatcher, weren't it? When she started shutting the mines. And that's not just my working class fucking roots coming out and all that. It's not, it's the truth. And I'm not saying it was just her, they just pinned it all on her, didn't they? And call it even Thatcherism. She was ISIS. Bitch. But more than doubled in 5 years. And it's not just people who were homeless, right? My mate's coming round soon, my wee mate. He's only young. And his stepdad died a couple of weeks ago. His birthday on Saturday there, just gone. Well, would have been his birthday. The guy was 10 years younger than me. Worked, job. Stayed, man. And it's so many. In the last couple of years, I can't believe I've made it to the age I have. I'm not kidding. So what I'm saying is the way these people threat the Assange way back then is how they're doing it now. To everyone. The way they treat the Indians is how they're treating the populace now. It's not just America. Countries don't mean anything. I'll show you that. These bastards only admitted to this a few years ago when they got forced to. You know exactly what I mean. Look. All the whitey countries. Innit? All the old empire. Australia, New Zealand, UK, but not Ireland, obviously, Canada, North America. So you got Australia, New Zealand, that's 1 and 2, Britain 3, Canada 4, America 5, 5 eyes. And they've been spying on every fucking one of us for donkeys since World War II. It's an Anglophone intelligence alliance comprising Australia, Canada, New Zealand, USA. The origins of Five Eye can be traced back to the post-World War II period when the Atlantic Charter was issued by the Allies to lay the cooperation in signals intelligence. Sorry. Fucking jump there. Doesn't help my stands sensitive as anything. I need a damper on it, you know, like a gimbal. Look, you can trace its history back to post-World War II when the Atlantic Charter was issued by the Allies to lay out their goals for a post-World War world. During the course of the Cold War, the Echelon surveillance system was initially developed by the Five Eye to monitor the communications of the former Soviet Union and the Eastern Bloc. See, they had that Cold War, didn't they, to justify all the sneakiness. Oh, it's national security. Oh, I've got to watch the commies. We could blow us up any moment. I grew up in terror. I grew up not giving a shit, sniffing glue, and watching all this Third World War propaganda and nuclear things on TV every night. And then that John Mills thing came out, like, what was it called? But it's like drawn dead quaint and dead like the snowman, but it's an old couple and nuclear war happens and it's all done in cartoon and John Mills's voice and some other Lancashire like home counties late, you know. It just terrified me. So I didn't give a shit. I was a nihilist. At age of 10, 9, 10, and I started sniffing glue at 11. And didn't give a flying fuck. Was not interested in school one bit. Hated it. Used to just spend my time in the library most days. But this plate thing here, this is fucking shocking, innit? I know. Right, should have done this fucking hours ago. Five Eyes countries in 2019 World Population Review. A group of nations has joined with the United States to form what is known as Five Eyes. See, the secret's out. They had to tell everyone. 31st of May, it was US and UK intelligence agencies with the go-ahead from their own governments caught spying on the general public, you and me. So what is the Five Eyes, and when did it all start? NSA documents shed further light on Five Eyes alliance. And there's 14 eyed countries, what you need to know. I think that's all Southeast Asia and that, I'm not sure about France and stuff. What are the 14 eyed countries? Things started to become clearer in 2013 after Ed Snowden. Snowman. Right, 14 eyes, the 9 eyes, which is the 5 eyes plus Denmark, France, Holland, Norway, so Europe, European Union, Germany, Belgium, Italy, Sweden, Spain. So basically, the European Union. Oh, how ridiculous. I think there's some numerology going on here. There's something going on. I don't care. You spy on me, spy away. What are you going to find on me? You never word at it. I won't trust what I'm reading on this anyway. Probably a fucking back door right into the computer, innit? But what I'm saying is that this thing's there to watch us. They're not there to look after us. They're there to make sure we don't get too uppity. Make sure we stay steady.
Have you ever seen the movie Wizard of Oz?
And that they can always contain us. That's what it's for. They're the monitors to make sure that they can contain humanity at any time, whatever the situation, whatever way the political wind is blowing. They're there to keep the fingers on the pulses and to know that given things going tits up, they'd be able to get out of it and round it. Look at that building. It's symbolic, innit? How the multinational spy network has grown since 9/11 and how they use that to justify so much. I'll tell you one name missing off that list there. But do you really think that they have nothing to do with it?
The end of the Cold War in the early 1990s saw the demise of the Soviet Union as a superpower and a threat. Up till then, the Five Eyes had been primarily focused on collecting intelligence from the communist bloc, so politicians began to question their agency's worth.
in not grabbing communications.
They used this as the excuse to
Accelerated
let these bastards run riot.
our, for want of a better word, invasiveness into communications networks in which legitimate targets coexisted with legitimately protected communications. There was a distinct change after...
Same as, when did we get the internet? 95? Like, you know, I know we had it before then, maybe, in small pockets and stuff, but what I'm saying is, right, you know JFK, I think they knew that the internet was coming out and they controlled the information. They allowed Oliver Stone to make that big JFK movie, The Big Reveal, remember? And that took the sting out of the because I think they knew the internet was coming down the line. They knew that as soon as the internet got going and people got hooked up, boom, it'd be out about JFK and we'd control the narrative of the internet, you know. So they controlled the narrative. They allowed the Oliver Stone movie to show us what happened, to tell us what, you know, control the narrative. Because they knew it was about to change. I really believe that. And I believe that's why they did 9/11, part of it. They knew they were running out of time. They wouldn't have been able to do it in a couple more years because they knew everyone had our camera in the pocket. It was last year they could have done that, wasn't it? That Christmas, the shops were already full of phones with cameras on, weren't they, by then? They were already getting affordable for the masses. They were just, you know what I mean? That was the last time. I think they held technology back till they did these things. Because it just, after 9/11, technology just got unleashed, didn't it? And I don't think it's as natural or as progressed as they fucking like to make us believe. Every bit of it's marketed to a T. Everything. Just watch a bit more of this, right?
No-go zone, which was using these Cold War massive national security resources against the citizens of the Five Eyes countries. That had been something that just never usually happened in a country like New Zealand or Australia or Canada.
You hear that?
And September 11 loosened that. The United States and Britain.
So in '89, the Berlin Wall came down, then the communism was, for all intents and purposes, Eastern communism of Europe was dead, wasn't it? The communist bloc was dead, the Iron Curtain had fallen. So all these agencies, what they tell us they set up to monitor the Cold War and keep their eye on that, and check communications in the Eastern Bloc, etc., etc., were all out of a job. They needed to find something to occupy. Cue fucking 9/11. And then, it's a good job we've got these guys here to help us look for these domestic terrorists, what are everywhere. Look how easy they can just do that with box cutters. And a few lessons in a Cessna.
Completely dropped all their sense of restraint.
If it were that easy to fly four planes, hijack 4 planes and fly 2 of them into buildings like that, right? Well, 3 of them into buildings. 3 out of 4. Someone would have done it. But I tell you why no one did it, because they know what would happen in reality. That plane would have just smashed the dust on the fucking outer casing and the first steel bar it came into contact with. It would have left a big